Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into the weeds on dynamic control for bass. We're looking at the MXR M87 Bass Compressor. Now, this thing came out, back in 2011?
That's right, over a decade ago.
And yet, it's still arguably the benchmark. You see it everywhere, on pro boards all over the world. So the question is, why?
Yeah, that's our mission today, really, to figure out what MXR did technically to make this pedal such a standard. Its whole promise wasn't about adding some cool sound or effect. No, it was about giving you genuine studio-grade compression, like totally uncolored, but in a little box you could stomp on. Think of it less as a pedal, more like a tiny rack unit for your board.
Right. And for bass players, compression isn't just nice to have, is it? It's kind of essential.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the volume jump. You play a soft, low E, fingerstyle, then maybe you pop a high G string.
Huge difference. Massive dynamic range.
Exactly. And that range, you can wreck a mix, distort the PA, make your quiet notes just vanish.
Yeah, the invisible sound problem. The M87 was designed to tackle that head on.
Precisely. It was engineered specifically for that wide dynamic swing, but crucially, while keeping everything crystal clear and giving you tons of headroom. The heart of it is the circuit design. It uses an analog VCA.
Okay, VCA. Voltage-controlled amplifier. Sounds technical. For the listener, why VCA? Why not, say, an optical compressor like you see in a lot of other bass pedals?
Good question. VCA is generally faster, more precise optical compressors. They often have this slight warmth, a bit of character. They can be slower, kind of buttery in their response.
Which can be nice sometimes.
It can be. But the VCA here, it's deliberately sterile, fast, almost surgical. That lack of warmth is actually its strength for this application.
How so?
It means the compression clamps down almost instantly, and exactly as you said it, super important for preserving the attack of the note, the transient, without squashing the life out of it.
Okay, that makes sense. And then there's the other big innovation with this pedal. The thing that really changed the game for how bassists interacted with compression on their boards.
Yeah, you're talking about the meter. It's exactly. Before the M87, using a compressor pedal was mostly guesswork, right? You tweaked knobs until it sounded okay.
Yeah, totally by ear. Set it and forget it. Maybe hope for the best. If you wanted to actually see what your compressor was doing in real time, you needed a big, expensive rack unit, studio gear.
Until this pedal.
Right. The M87 was the first MXR pedal, maybe one of the first mainstream pedals, period, to have that full 10-segment LED gain reduction meter. Bright LEDs showing you exactly how much your signal is being compressed, from 1 dB all the way up to 20 dB instantly.
That visual feedback is huge.
Yeah.
Suddenly, players had this language, this understanding of dynamics that was usually locked away in studios. You could actually see on a dark stage if your loudest notes were being tamed properly.
For sure. And it connects to an interesting bit of engineering history, actually. You mentioned the VCA is fast.
Yeah.
Well, to get that specific kind of fast response, the one that sounds musical and natural, not just abrupt, the MXR engineers look back at a classic piece of gear. Wait, hang on. If the goal is total transparency, pure VCA cleanness, why model anything? Wouldn't modeling introduce color like you said optical does? What did they borrow?
It's a subtle distinction. They didn't model the sound of the unit, but they looked at the envelope detection circuit from the classic DBX 160A rack compressors.
Okay, envelope detection. What's that doing?
That's the part of the circuit that listens to your playing and decides how the compressor should react, how quickly it grabs the note, how it follows the decay. The DBX design is famous for being super fast, but also really smooth and natural sounding. It catches the initial hit without choking it.
Ah, I see. So they borrowed the behavior, the reaction time, not the tone itself, and shrunk it down.
Exactly. They miniaturized that sophisticated response for a pedal format. Pretty clever.
Okay, so we get what it is, VCA, and how it reacts. DBX-style detection. Let's dig into those 5 knobs. That's what gives it the studio-grade control, right?
Absolutely. This isn't some simple 2-knob squisher. You've got the full toolkit. First, input and output. Pretty standard stuff. Input sets how much signal hits the compressor.
Like a sensitivity control?
Kinda, yeah. And output is just your final volume level, makeup gain, match levels, that sort of thing.
Standard. But then we get attack, relief, and ratio. That's the core of shaping the dynamics.
That's where the magic happens. And the ranges here are really wide, really precise for a pedal. Attack, how fast the compression kicks in, goes from an incredibly quick 20 microseconds.
Wow, that's fast.
All the way up to 800 microseconds. Then release, how fast it lets go, is adjustable from 50 milliseconds up to a full second. That level of control is, well, it's not typical for a stomp box.
No kidding. And then ratio, that sets the intensity, how hard it compresses.
Correct. Ratio determines the amount of compression applied once the signal crosses the threshold. It starts gentle at 4.1, which is great for just smoothing things out.
Subtle leveling.
Exactly. Then it goes all the way up past 12.1, 20.1, and even has an infinity setting.
Infinity. So basically a limiter.
Precisely. At infinity to 1, it acts as a brick wall limiter. Nothing gets past that threshold level. That's serious control. Allows it to go from gentle smoothing to aggressive peak stopping.
Okay, let's circle back to transparency. We keep saying it's clean, but bass players are often skeptical. What's the technical guarantee it won't mess with the tone, especially the low end? The classic fear is your compressor just sucks the bass right outright.
That's the #1 worry, for sure. The M87 tackles this with an incredibly flat frequency response. We're talking 20 hertz way up to 20 kilohertz.
Full range.
Full audible range, yeah. And the variation across that is tiny, just plus or minus half a decibel. Negligible. It basically means it treats your lowest lows the same way it treats your mids and highs. No thinning out, no boosting weird frequencies, just level.
Okay. And what about handling hot signals? Like from active basses with powerful preamps, they can slam the input way harder than a passive P bass.
That's where headroom becomes critical. The M87 has really high headroom, spec'd up to plus 19 dBu.
Which is...
Yeah, that's substantial. It means you can feed it a really strong signal from an active bass without the pedal's own circuitry distorting or clipping internally. It prevents that awful crunch you can get when a hot signal overloads gear not designed for it. It solves a problem many standard guitar pedals just aren't built to handle.
Right. And that annoying pumping or breathing sound you sometimes hear with compressors working hard, how does it avoid that?
That comes down to some smart internal stuff. It uses true bypass switching, which is good, but more importantly, it has filtered sidechain detection.
Sidechain.
Yeah.
That's the part that listens to the signal.
Exactly. The sidechain tells the compressor when to act. By filtering that sidechain, specifically rolling off some of the super low frequencies before they hit the detector, it prevents those big, powerful sub-bass notes from making the compressor overreact and clamp down too hard on the whole signal.
Ah, so the deep lows don't trigger excessive compression on everything else.
You got it. That stops that unnatural sucking or pumping sound, keeps the overall dynamics much more natural, even under heavy compression.
Makes total sense. Okay, so we've covered the tech. Let's talk payoff. What does this actually sound like in a room or on a track? We keep using that word transparent. If it doesn't add color, what's the point for the player?
Well, the point is the lack of color. Its character is really about controlling peaks, evening out the quiet bits, adding sustain, all without changing your core tone. There's that famous quote about it.
The compressor you forget is on.
Until you turn it off. That really sums it up. You don't notice it adding anything. You just notice when the control it provides is suddenly gone. That's clarity.
And because it's so clean, those 5 controls become purely functional tools, right?
Yeah.
You can use the same pedal to get wildly different dynamic effects.
Absolutely. It's a chameleon in terms of application, not tone. So it needs subtle leveling, maybe for fingerstyle, just to smooth things out, add a bit of sustain. You dial in a low ratio, like 4.1, maybe a medium attack and release. Easy.
Okay. What about players using fuzz or lots of effects? Those volume spikes can be brutal.
Yeah, for them, you'd go into limiter stage protection mode, crank that ratio knob way up, maybe even to infinity, set a fast attack time. Now it's acting like a safety net. Huge signal peaks, just hit a ceiling and stop. Protects your amp, protects the PA, protects the ears of the sound engineer.
Always appreciated. Now, what about specific tones, say for slap bass?
Right. For that snappy funk or slap tone, you generally want the compressor to react really fast to catch the initial pop, but then get out of the way quickly so the note rings out. So fast attack, fast release.
Makes sense. And the opposite, like for smooth singing lines, maybe on a fretless.
For that kind of smooth sustain, you do the opposite. Slow down the attack, slow down the release. This lets the initial bloom of the note come through naturally before the compression gently takes hold and evens things out. Gives you sustain that feels very organic, almost like tube sag, but without adding any actual tube warmth or distortion.
So really versatile just by tweaking those time constants in the ratio. Where does this pedal really shine in terms of application? Where is it most essential?
Well, #1 is probably the live bass rig. It just solves so many problems on stage. Smoothing out volume jumps between playing styles, fingerstyle to pick, soft verse to loud chorus, or just evening out the notes across the fretboard.
And that LED meter is key there.
Absolutely crucial live in a loud, maybe dark venue. You can just glance down and see how much gain reduction you're getting. You're not guessing. It guarantees consistency from song to song, night after night.
Makes sense. What about the studio? Does it hold up against dedicated rack gear?
For project studios or home recording, definitely. It might not replace a high-end rack unit in a major studio, but it gets you remarkably close in terms of transparency and control. It's perfect for getting a solid, consistent DI bass tone tracked right from the start, clean enough that engineers aren't afraid to use it, unlike some pedals that really color the sound too much. It genuinely competes with bigger units for many tasks.
And not just for bass, right? Because it's so clean.
Exactly. Its clean nature makes it really useful elsewhere. Guitarists sometimes use it for clean electric tones, leveling things out without squashing. It's also great on acoustic guitar pickups, taming those harsh piezo quacks sometimes. Anything with a wide dynamic range that you just want to control transparently, it's a contender.
Okay, that brings us nicely to the legacy. Yeah. How did this pedal become the sort of gold standard in such a busy market?
Well, part of it is just that it worked so well, so reliably, and pros noticed. It got adopted by a ton of high-profile players early on, people like Justin Meldal-Johnson, Juan Alderete, Nathan East. When players like that put it on their boards, others pay attention.
For sure. Endorsements matter, even informal ones. But when it launched, there were other good compressors around. How did it stand out against, say, the EBS Multicomp or the Aguilar TLC, which were also popular?
It really carved out its own specific niche. Surgical transparency. The competitors were great but different. The EBS Multicomp, for instance, is excellent, but it's multiband, often has a tube sim mode. It inherently offers a bit of tonal shaping, some color.
Right, and the Aguilar.
The Aguilar TLC uses an optical circuit. Optical compressors are generally known for being a bit warmer, slower, adding a smooth, almost gooey texture. Again, really nice, but it's a sound.
So the M87's unique selling point was not having a sound.
Kind of. It deliberately offered the opposite of warmth or specific color. It prioritized the speed, the accuracy, the clinical precision of that VCA circuit. If you just wanted your bass, only louder or quieter in the right spots with no added flavor, the M87 was, and really still is, the go-to pedal for that.
Did its influence? Did it change things beyond just being popular?
Oh, yeah. It definitely set the tone for MXR's whole modern bass pedal series that followed. But the biggest impact was that visual metering.
The LEDs?
Those LEDs. It raised the bar across the industry. Suddenly, having detailed visual feedback on a compressor pedal became almost expected. You saw other companies like Empress, Dark Glass, and others incorporating similar multi-segment meters on their compression pedals shortly after. Players realized how valuable that visual confirmation was.
And the circuit itself found a second life, didn't it?
It did. That core VCA circuit was so well regarded for its clean performance that MXR adapted it pretty directly into the M76 studio compressor.
Which isn't just for bass.
Nope, marketed for guitar, keys, whatever. General studio use in a pedal, that really speaks volumes about how effective and valued that specific VCA design is beyond just the bass world. It remains a benchmark for reliability, clarity, control.
Okay, so let's wrap this deep dive up. To summarize, the MXR M87 became and remains essential for, I think, three main reasons. First, it was really the first pedal to deliver true studio rack transparency and headroom for bassists.
Agreed. Uncolored control.
Second, it completely changed the game with that 10-segment LED meter, bringing real-time visual feedback out of the studio and onto the stage.
Revolutionized expectations there.
And third, it just set a new standard for reliability and clean surgical dynamic control that has influenced countless other designs.
Absolutely. A true modern classic. And, thinking about its enduring success, that deliberate choice for clean VCA, the DBX style detection, makes you wonder, well, given how much players still demand this kind of clean control and the fact they repackaged the circuit for the M76 for all instruments, what does that tell us about what musicians fundamentally value in dynamics? Maybe whether you're playing bass, guitar, keys, whatever, maybe that pure transparency, the ability to control dynamics without altering the core tone, is the ultimate goal for truly professional gear. Something to think about.
Definitely food for thought. All right, that's our time for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you on the next one.